What's up guys, I am Lee Morris with Fstoppers.com and I have two very interesting lenses that I want to review with you today. Right here I have a 35mm 1.8 by Tamron. In this hand I have a 45mm 1.8 by Tamron. And you may be asking yourself, what makes these so unique? I've certainly heard of lenses like that before. Well, what's interesting about both of these lenses is they have vibration compensation inside of them. Tamron seems to be the only company that's putting vibration compensation inside of wide-angle prime lenses. And you may be asking yourself, well, why do I really need that? Who would actually use that feature? Well, that all depends on what type of photography or videography you do. If you happen to find yourself out at night shooting handheld, or maybe you're a wedding photographer and you happen to be shooting in low light situations, you're obviously not going to have a tripod. You're going to want to shoot with a prime lens like this. It's a 1.8 aperture, but you're also really going to appreciate the vibration compensation in this lens. So right now I'm in downtown Charleston. It's night. Let's walk around with this lens and put it through a few tests. The first thing that you're gonna notice when you pick up this lens is just how well it's built. I'm a big fan of Tamron lenses, but I also am the first to admit that I don't really like their build quality. I love their 24-70 2.8 lens. It's my #1 lens. I actually prefer it to the Nikon version, but it still feels kind of plasticky. When you pick this thing up and you actually spin the zoom ring, it feels so nice. It's very similar to the way Sony lenses currently feel. So you're definitely gonna be happy about the build quality and the speed at which this thing can autofocus. I have my ISO set to 100 right now. How crazy is that? And I'm shooting at 1/5 of a second. And with vibration compensation on, I can actually get sharp images. Obviously, you're not gonna get sharp images every single time, but they're gonna be much better than if you try to do it without it. I've shown you some pictures before and after. You can tell the vibration compensation in the lens does help when hand holding pictures, but you may be wondering, will that actually help hand holding video? And the answer is yes. David right now is holding the 35mm version. He has vibration compensation on. Go ahead and flip that off, David, and we'll see if we can see a difference. So you can see now there's just a little bit of movement. He's still being very, very steady. So David, add a little bit more shake now, add some vibration to it. And then I want you to flick back on vibration compensation while you're doing that. And you can see that totally frees the shot. Obviously, that's a huge exaggeration. You're not gonna be like shivering while you're holding the camera, but even if you are, it's going to be able to help you out. So if you're shooting video handheld, vibration compensation will be a big help, but it's also not magic. You can see here, if we start walking, it's not a steady cam. It's not going to look perfect. It's not going to be like cinematic quality like you might expect from a movie or something like that. But it is going to be a lot better than if you didn't have vibration compensation. So I've been walking around and I've been shooting slower and slower shutter speeds handheld with vibration compensation on and off. It seems like I'm getting about 2 or 3 stops of better performance with vibration compensation on, which is definitely helpful. I took this last shot here at 1/2 of a second, which is incredibly slow. And you can see there's a huge difference in the sharpness that I'm getting here. But at the same time, a lot of photographers might still say though that even with vibration compensation on, this shot is not sharp enough. So now let's talk about price. Both of these lenses are $500, and that's not incredibly expensive or incredibly cheap. When you compare them to the 50mm 1.4 that you can get around $200 or $300, it is a significant jump from there. And a 50mm you can easily get in a 1.4 or 1.2 aperture. But when you really think about what you're getting for $500, the build quality of the lens, the 1.8 aperture, and the vibration compensation, I think it is a pretty decent value at that price. I also don't see any reason why you would buy both of these lenses. There's really no reason to buy a 35 and a 45. You're probably going to pick one and stick with that. What's exciting about these lenses is that Tamron is basically creating a brand new segment. They're not competing with any other lenses here. If you need vibration compensation in a wide angle lens like this, there's really no other options. And what's cool about this is Tamron plans to come out with even more lenses that are prime and have vibration reduction as well. So they are soon coming out with an 85mm 1.8. I think it's going to be the ultimate portrait lens for wedding photographers. So as I said at the very beginning of this video, what type of photography or videography are you actually doing? If you're a landscape photographer, this lens certainly isn't for you. You're going to be using a tripod, you're not going to be using vibration compensation, you're definitely not going to be shooting at 1.8, you're going to be doing long exposures on a steady tripod. So at the end of the day, these lenses by Tamron are very specialized and the average photographer probably won't have any need for them. But if you're like me, maybe you're a wedding photographer, maybe you're a street photographer, maybe you end up shooting at night in very dim locations very often. And for those of you who actually need it, I think you're really going to enjoy it.